What's up, guys? This is Daniel with Midnight Movie Trash inaugural podcast edition. This is the first of many podcasts that I am going to do. Uh, first episode will be first few episodes going to be me just talking horror movies, horror movie fandom, horror related action movie, grindhouse, all that good stuff. Basically, lifelong horror movie fan. Dating back to being a kid from the 80s. So, I've had a very nice VHS collection, DVD collection, all that good stuff. But life sometimes kicks you in the balls, and I had to sell a lot of my collection, which hurt. But when life throws curveballs at you, and you need to stay above water, you know everything you hold dear tends to sometimes have to part ways with. And the two biggest things that three biggest things I really parted ways with in the beginning, due to loss of job, and my father going down with multiple sicknesses. The biggest one was my movie collection. I had big box tapes, left and right, Wizard Video, Midnight Video, all that good stuff. A few copies of The Abomination, all this, rare stuff that I found in the wild. Big thrift shop, flea market, garage sale hunter. And that being said, I'm a big retro video gamer and all that stuff. And that was the second part of the stuff that I did away with. You know, a lot of TurboGrafx 16 stuff, NES, all that good stuff. And I was you know, I dabbled in being a musician, and I had a make, little home studio. And that was another thing too that bit the bullet to, be able to pay my bills and take care of my dad. And so, years down the line, things, got better, stuff like that. Now, started getting back into collecting VHS and movies and retro video games and all that good stuff. But this is going to be more of me talking about a horror movie. I for years have thrown around the idea of doing a film. So that's where Midnight Movie Trash came from. I sat there with a DVD burner and VHS players and DVD players and all that good stuff, and sat there and basically made my own trailer compilation disc. Made two versions. I made volume 1 and volume 2 of Midnight Movie Trash trailers, I called it. That was back in, I'm going to say, about 2010ish, something like that. After my dad passed, I got back into the collecting and stuff like that. So, you know, one of the things is of being, you know, so into horror and wanting to make a film. you know, that was the easiest thing that I could do right then and there at the moment. And, I sat there and thought about the name. What would I call my production company, or all that good stuff? And Midnight Movie Trash came out. So that's, fast forward all these years, and, that's still been, you know, a part of me, collecting. And, you know, the filmmaking fell to the wayside, but now, that itch has came up. And, hopefully this year with the new 2019, that is one of the goals, not a feature, but a let a couple shorts, to learn to do something because I don't know how to do jack shit. You know, I didn't go to film school. You know, special features and Robert Rodriguez is my film school, but that's just a little bit about me. Uh, the one of the first topics that I would like to get into is the loss of the home video rental store, whether it was VHS or whether it's a Blockbuster, Hollywood Video being, you know, one of the big staples in my area. Growing up as a kid, we had, our local HEB. I'm from Texas. We uh, we had HEB, and inside of some of the HEBs and standalones, they had Video Central. So as my mom would go and shop for the food and stuff we need, she would leave me in the video rental place, and she's like, "Well, pick out some movies," and I'll come and rent them, and you know, that's where I discovered some of the basic horror movies, a lot of kung fu films. That like I said, this is gonna cover everything from horror movies to kung fu to exploitation, grindhouse action. So sitting there, you know, picking up Chuck Norris movies, Invasion USA, Missing in Action, all those good '80s, American Ninja, the horror movies, you know, renting the Friday the 13th and your basic stuff. It was always, you know, I would look forward to going and getting VHS tapes from there, and there was no excuse. We didn't have to go to a separate, little mom and pop store or Blockbuster. There wasn't, the closest Blockbuster to me was not very close at all. So, that was, and at that time, that here in town, that era, every whether it was your HEB or what was the other one, Handy Andy here in town, they had a rental section, you know, so that was always cool, being able to walk into the store, get your movies. But it wasn't till the I hit high school when I started really going to the mom and pop shops. We had one here called Chain Reaction Video, which was literally down the street from me, and that's where the I guess you would say the real love affair with horror and the grindhouse and the midnight movies came from. They had the shockumentaries. I remember my 16th birthday. They were asking me, "Hey, what do you want? What do you want to do?" I was like, "I want to order pizza, rent horror movies, and have my buddies come over." So they said, "Sure, okay, that what you want? Cool." So the day of my birthday fell on a Friday, so talked to my buddies and be like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna order some pizza, get a bunch of junk food, and you guys wanna rent some horror movies." And at that time, I had a really good, still a really good friend of mine. He'll be on this podcast eventually. A big horror fan. Said we're gonna get some horror movies, but not any kind of horror movies. Like they're like, "What do you mean?" And, we had talked about him. One of my friends, stepdad and his mom knew of the good old Faces of Death movies, and they were like, "Well, why the hell do y'all want to watch that? What's wrong with y'all?" I'm like, "Well, y'all saw him, right?" He goes, "Yeah." I go, "Well, then." So we decided we're gonna get as many of these, shockumentaries as we possibly can. So, we show up at a Chain Reaction Video, and you know, me and my buddies, we're anxious. We walk in and we go straight to the horror movie section, and the lady that ran the video store was like, telling me, "Hey, those movies you have in your hand, you can't rent those." I'm like, "Yes, I can." They're like, "No, you can't. You're not 18." I'm like, "I'm not, but they are." And as you know, she looks. My parents are walking through the door, and she just looks at me with that. She kind of gave me that side eye, that little "fuck you" look. Like she was like, "Fine." So we're sitting there. So we grab Faces of Death one, two. We grab Traces of Death one, and we got Shocking Asia. Boy, were we in a surprise for Shocking Asia, but that was one of the only places that I knew of at that moment that had those off the wall shockumentaries. And I knew they were there because my my older brother, years before my 16th birthday, he had heard about those films, and he rented 1 through 3. And you know at that time I was 7 years old. My brother comes in. He's like, "Hey man, you want to watch a movie?" Because I had a TV in my room and VCR. And he was like, "You want to watch a movie?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure." So he proceeds to pop in Faces of Death one, and I'm sitting there, sitting on my bed, hugging my pillow, watching all these death scenes and stuff like that. And I kind of credit my love for gore to that. And a special thanks to my mom for being a gore hound herself, and sitting and watching the goriest of gore films that I could rent or purchase. She sits there and watches them with me till this day. She's still down to see a great horror film. So it wasn't my first rodeo with the Faces of Death. you know at that time, trilogy. So I knew what to expect as far as those films. I had never seen the Traces of Death. That was new. Shocking Asia was a shocker with one particular scene. The and I believe we read it in Humanities also at that time, or it was either a later time, because we went back quite a few times and rent it from there. And then there was another place close to my house called Latest and Greatest that also had some shockumentaries, but there I never rented from there because they required a $50 deposit check upon rental. Well, this other place did not. And then there was a really great rental. They had multiple locations in town called Pop and Go Video. They had some really great horror films there, as well as Chain Reaction, which was I call that place the the video rental store that I missed most. I mean, because that's where I saw Cannibal Holocaust and Cannibal Ferox and all these now legendary you know Italian cannibal films. So that was truly a a sad day when I found out that they closed it. And I had rented some stuff from them a few weeks before they closed, and you know they didn't say anything that they were going to shut down, or they were on their last month of rentals. I just me and my buddies decided to go, hey, let's go see what we can go find at you know Chain Reaction. And it was gone. Doors were closed. They used to have a baseball card shop right next to it. It was the same owner. The shops were connected, and even that was closed also. So yeah, that was pretty sad. And thinking about it now, it's like I would love to have been able to purchase some of those VHS tapes from that place. The same thing with Video Central at owned by HEB brand, supermarkets. They also, you know, shut down, but they gave warning. So, I was able to purchase some tapes. They lined the outside of the store under the little walkway that they had with bins full of tapes, for $5. So, I picked up a couple action films. All the good horror stuff was gone, you know. So, I was able to pick up, some Chuck Norris films and some what was it? American Ninja 2, I think. And then the rest was like a lot of comedy stuff and a lot of wrestling films. But yeah, as time progressed, the DVD came in, and which was cool. Blockbuster and Hollywood Video, you know, reigned supreme. They pushed out the small mom and pop rental chains. There was a few bastions of hope out there, and you know, as time progressed, they just went away, and you know, it's it's sad. To me, it's sad. As a fan of cinema, you know, that experience. Like nowadays, kids don't, like my nephews don't understand the concept of going to Blockbuster or going to Hollywood Video or one of your mom and pop shops, you know, picking out some movies, ordering pizza, playing video games that way. Now, you know, you have Netflix, you can digitally stream everything, which I'm not hating on it, but there was that factor of going to the place, seeing your friends, next thing they rent movies, and then they show up at your place, and next thing you got like five or six friends sitting around in the living room, watching films and having a good time. You know that that's lost. You know, there's none of that. I see those memes about like Friday night starter kit, popcorn, Pizza Hut, Blockbuster. You know, that was true. But you know, with everything, time moves on, and now as a fan, I hit up the thrift shops and yard sales and looking for VHS tapes. Trying to rebuild that collection and find those tapes that meant something to me as a kid, like you know Invasion USA, the Chuck Norris film. It's funny how nostalgic I get watching that film. I still remember the day I first rented it with my dad, and you know we bought stuff from the deli to make sandwiches, and it was a Sunday afternoon during the summer. So we're sitting there eating sandwiches and watching Chuck Norris kick ass. Stuff like that. That's a big part of why I collect, and why you know when you find those gems that mean something on a personal level is always pretty cool. But you know, on another note, being that we just passed New Year's, 2018 was not a bad year for horror. I was privileged enough to see a lot of screeners this year, and I was able to catch a few of them, horror related. I was, friend request. You know, a lot of people didn't dig it. A lot of people didn't like it. I didn't have an issue with it. It was what it was. It was just a, you know, kind of a cheesy horror film, and that worked, for me. Truth or Dare wasn't it was another film that a lot of people didn't take to. I personally didn't mind it. You know, the storyline wasn't bad. The only thing is that damn, you know, Snapchat, Instagram filter, when they got possessed. Yeah, that didn't work for me. But, it was such a decent plot line that Netflix has its own Truth or Dare that follows a very similar pattern and similar plot. So it is what it is. The one of the ones that I have not yet seen is The Strangers Pray at Night. I've heard good things about it. I bought it during Black Friday. Just have not sat down to watch it. Halloween. I was able to see it a week before it came out in the theaters as a screener. I mean, I personally love the film. Great film. You know, Laurie Strode. You know, she she's iconic. They had tried to bring her back in a couple of them, and just I don't know, didn't work. This one, this is her story. This is her 30 years down the line, and I thought they did a great job of it. The director, you know, Carpenter, having his hand in it, scoring the film, that alone, had me sold. Jamie Lee Curtis reprising her role 30 years later the right way. I dig it. Not only that, but the box office significance that film had for a horror film, breaking records. Not only did that just set the bar, but, now every reboot or sequel to, one of the big franchises now has that bar to meet. So, you know, these other franchises, I know Freddy, Robert Englund has stated that he has one last Nightmare on Elm Street in him. As a fan, I want to see that. You know, LeBron James has tweeted about his love of doing a Friday the 13th. I'm like, I'll watch it, but you gotta live up to Halloween. So, whether they do another Texas Chainsaw Massacre, whatever, that is the bar that they have to meet. And another film that blew me out of the water when I finally saw it was Mandy. Nicolas Cage was perfect for that role. He that acid trip psycho movie, where he's a reaper, you know, going up against that cult of LSD drug induced, I don't know what you call them, but biker hippies or whatever, man. That movie was just, I watched it and I was like, holy shit, what did I just watch? This is awesome. So yeah, that was a good standout. I finally saw A Quiet Place. I like it. I like it. This century, I don't know if I'm butchering that, uh, horror genre is now a thing, with can't talk, can't see, can't hear, so that's a new thing. Hopefully that's going to pull away from the possession that we've been stuck on for way too long, I think. The supernatural possessions, horror movies are great, but, it's time to, I'm a slasher fan, so I want the slasher genre to come back. But, the Bird Box, everybody's talking about the Bird Box. It's a great film. I enjoyed it. I just I didn't buy into the hypeness of this being the greatest horror film. I was, people were like, "Oh my god, it's so scary." To me, it was a thriller. You know, I mean, Sandra Bullock did an amazing job on it. I won't take that away from her. It was a very unique, you know, horror movie. Well, it is considered horror, but it is that last end of the year hot topic. Everybody now. I just read on Facebook that Netflix is sending out a warning and a please do not come up with any bird box challenges. So they obviously did something right if they've got idiots blindfolding themselves and filming themselves. So that is kind of where the mindset is of our time right now. But that's neither here nor there. But you know, Hereditary is one that I still have not watched. It it's just one of those ones that I just haven't gotten around to, and I've heard really great things about it, and I am looking forward to sitting down and finally watching it. The Nun. You know, a lot of people weren't crazy for it. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I liked the way it fit in the timeline. It. I love the fact that they tie in these movies together. The tie-ins are what really get me. For those that haven't seen it, pay attention. It is explained. And that's what I loved about Annabelle Creation. It tied in the entire series, the Conjuring universe, together, and this one did the same thing. So, you know, Netflix, they were doing some great stuff horror wise. You know, The Ritual. That was a really good one. I thoroughly enjoyed watching The Ritual. So it, you know I may have bashed the streaming service earlier, for killing off the video store, but you know it does have its perks, and really is a you know the modern day video store. So being that there's so many of them now, there's something for everybody. Amazon Prime is really embracing a lot of the old horror movies. Also, you know, they've got some great titles on there. But 2018 was I would say a fairly good year for horror. With 2019 coming up, I am looking forward to you know Happy Death Day. You know, Part Two. For some reason, that film, you know, stuck with me. I don't know why. It's like a guilty pleasure horror movie for me. I could be working on things here. In the working on editing videos, or working on you know writing reviews or whatever, and I can actually put that movie on in the background and let it play. And you know, I don't know. It's that one of those films that if I'm cleaning or whatever, I can just pop that one in there and just you know let it go, and I'll enjoy it. So I'm looking forward to part two. Looking forward to Three from Hell, the next Rob Zombie installment of the Devil's Rejects. That one I'm really looking forward to. And a bunch of other ones. Of course, I'm a big superhero fan, so the whole Marvel, the Captain Marvel and the Avengers, you know, the end game. Let's see how they work this one out and all that good stuff. But you know, it's gonna be a good year, film wise again. So this is back to the podcast. This is just something that I've been wanting to do, and this is just going to be for the beginning, just me talking. This is the pilot episode. I'm testing the waters. I'm trying one way of recording, and then next time I'll try another way. So this is a lot of trial and error, and basically this is just me sitting down and rambling. So, as I get situated for the actual start of the podcast, I will have more structure to it. I will have other people on with it. It's not just going to be me sitting here rambling. You're going to get opinions from other horror fans or movie fans. And, the goal is to actually get, some B movie actors. I do a lot of events, so I would like to, you know, get them on, a little audio clip of them talking to them at the conventions, as well as some, you know, up and coming actor friends of mine, to come in and sit down and talk film, talk what it is to be on that side of of the the velvet rope, I guess you can say, and also other collector friends, other horror fans and people that enjoy the genre, talk film and talk midnight movies, talk the local TV station, the KRRT 35 here in San Antonio, having their midnight movies back in the early to mid 80s, watching Empire of the Ants and watching Squirm and watching all these, Jaws of Satan, watching all these midnight movies, as a kid, you know, that was another big thing that I loved, and that's another reason why the midnight, played a big part in the name of the production company and the podcast and all that stuff. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that I'm gonna talk about, you know, and I will get better in talking and with structure. So, thank you for hearing me ramble on this first test run. Till next time, see ya.